We do partner with hundreds of creators, publications, brands in the creator marketing economy, and we are so happy to highlight another very key player today.
Today our guest is Ryan Heafy, who is the co-founder and COO of 6am City, a hyper-local media company that focuses on local news and events across the United States. They're currently reaching millions daily through newsletters, social media, podcasts, and more across 28 different cities. Ryan transitioned from the aerospace industry in 6am City and used his background in mechanical engineering and scaling businesses to help 6am City grow their newsletter to over 1.4 million subscribers. And they also, I noticed this as I was researching it, you guys celebrated your 9th birthday, so congrats on that, Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Congrats, 9 years is a very, very long time. Do you feel like it's been a long time, Ryan?
Yes, I do feel like it's been a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gone by fast, but when you start something like this, we started from, a small media company and kind of grew up, and we didn't start like a typical high growth startup. So we kind of eased our way into, being part of the legacy media ecosystem. And so it's been a slow, steady growth, but it's been a growth. I mean, and it's been pretty wild, and it's had a lot of lessons learned along the way.
Tommy mentioned in his intro that you were in the aerospace industry. How did you get your start in there? What attracted you to it? And then what kind of led that transition to news?
I think, and even still today, this is true in a lot of instances, but most kids are told that a 4-year degree path is the right way to go. I was a tinkerer. I always was, building things and creating businesses and stuff all the way back to elementary school. And mechanical engineering was the right path for me, except I was the social mechanical engineer. And in college started leading different groups and organizations, and came out, worked as Sikorsky Aircraft, ended up in a really unique position to dual source the Black Hawk helicopter transmission, and travel around the world, and was really focused in supply chain, Lean Six Sigma, process manufacturing related things. And that mindset and like figuring out how to do things as efficiently as possible, did transition really well later to local media, a system that's pretty broken right now. So, but along that journey, exited the aerospace industry in 2012. Got the opportunity to invest in workforce development in our local community in Greenville, South Carolina, and really open up kids' eyes to what it looks like to work in skilled labor, not just going the traditional 4-year degree path. And so bringing out drones and robots and 3D printing and virtual reality and augmented reality all onto Main Street, and bringing out tens of thousands of kids to see what that looks like was really eye-opening. 2 ways. One, it showed kids opportunity, and changed kind of some of their course. But it also showed me that there was a gap in the local community and ecosystem, in that people just don't know what they don't know. And they're so stuck in the algorithmic vacuum of whatever social platform they're in and the preference set and friends that they have, that it was hard to get people to understand what we were even doing and to come out. And so how do you break down that barrier? And around that same time, my business partner, Ryan Johnston, his family owns a legacy print media company in Greenville, South Carolina. They were all print products, and they were really trying to figure out how to bridge the gap into digital. He didn't want to inherit a print media company. The writing and the tea leaves were out there that said, hey, if you pick this up, it might not exist in 10 years. So how do we be a little bit more innovative? And so Ryan Johnston's product strategy and idea behind a newsletter concept that was scalable, and my business scalable manufacturing process oriented brain, which are very different from each other, crashed together over some leadership development stuff in our community. And I came on to help design what is now a newsletter product in 28 US markets. And we really focused on the business principles and processes that allowed it to be scalable. And that's been the differentiator, and also the synergy between my past and what we're doing today. And you're seeing that a lot more now, specifically in the newsletter space, where people are realizing there is a operating system for the newsletter space that can be a highly profitable unit economic situation compared to legacy media platforms.
Yeah, that's very impressive. And I really love, you know, why you started it and you just trying to get the community together and local news. And also you're across 28 different cities. That's so impressive. When I speak to my brand clients, I list out some publications we work with, and every time I mention 6 a.m., they're like, yeah, of course we know 6 a.m. So you're very well recognized in, you know, this economy. As far as local news, what was the first 6 a.m. market? And then how did you choose which cities to branch into?
Yeah, so we started, so as a product innovation, we were really a product innovation of Community Journals Publishing Company in Greenville, South Carolina, which is my business partner's family company. And we started here in 2016 under that umbrella in Greenville, and we built it on the backs of the advertising relationships that Community Journals had. We brought this newsletter that was going to focus on everything but politics, crime and punishment, and divisive topics. How do we educate and activate a community? How do we teach people how to spend their time, talent, and treasure locally? And how do we act as a media company that aggregates all of the news and events in the community from all sources and shares that, which was different than most legacy local media companies, which would only share their own content. And so we broke the mold. We broke the algorithm and kind of gave people a better slice of what happens in the community. So after Greenville got up and running, the challenge was someone had to run it. I came in actually as a contractor to help them build it. But we spun this thing up and pre-sold $500,000 in advertising and was like, crap, we need to actually operate this business. So I came on full time at that point. This was only in like a 4-month window that all that happened. And over the next year and a half or so, we convinced Ryan's father that, hey, this is a real thing. It can scale. You let us prove that it can scale to multiple cities. Let's spin it out of the parent company, become 6 a.m. City in 2018, and then start raising capital to grow. And so that was kind of the starting catalyst, was about 2018, where we started raising some additional capital from angel investors in our different markets. And then we were identifying markets that were geographically adjacent to where we were because it was easy. We thought we had to go open up a market, have an office in these different cities. We had 2 editors in every city that were producing newsletters and a salesperson. So we went from Greenville, South Carolina to Columbia, South Carolina to Charleston, South Carolina to Asheville, North Carolina. And that the ball started moving in that regard. And then we started getting recruited to cities through economic development and other channels to say, hey, y'all are driving such a huge economic impact in the cities that you're in. Hey, come be in our city. And so we got ourselves to about 7 markets. And when you get to a few different cities like that, you get to start seeing the difference between each city, which ones are profitable, which ones are not profitable, why they're not, what are the variations in the makeup of the demographics of those cities. And we were able to identify what makes a city good for our business, and then how we go to expand. And it was primarily based on how quickly could we grow the audience in that market? What's the total addressable market size of our reader demographic profile? Is there an advocate in that community that wants us there? Whether that's an economic development entity, a chamber, an existing advertiser, or whatever, that's saying, hey, I'm going to bring you in. I'm going to help you guys meet all these other people. We'll be an advertising partner of yours out the gate. Great. And then the last one is advertisers and revenue. So what started happening was a flywheel effect where we would have an advertiser in 3 or 4 cities. And they're like, hey, we also exist in these other 3 cities. When are you going? We'll sign on day 1. So a $30,000 a year advertiser becomes a $240,000 a year advertiser. And so that was the flywheel effect that kind of let us expand regionally. And then we got this crazy ass idea that said, hey, 1 million subscribers is a number that sounds like something our advertisers are saying, that once we get there, we could get more national ad dollars to help subsidize some of the local that takes longer to grow. And so we established some investor relationships and said, let's triple the size of the company. So in about 2023, we went from 7 cities to 21 cities, from 30 employees to over 100 employees. The revenue wasn't going to grow as fast because we put these flags all in the ground, and local revenue takes time to mature. So it was a very expensive value prop, but that was kind of we identified these cities that we thought were all going to be awesome that fit the mold. What we learned in the process is that one, we went too fast. It was a little bit more expensive than we wanted it to be. And that some of the really larger cities where we thought we could grow quicker were more expensive to operate. And it was harder. It took longer to establish those local advertising relationships for us. So we picked up national advertising dollars, which was awesome. That part of the theory panned out. But the local, which is really our bread and butter, where we beat kind of any of our competition, we it was just a longer road for us. And so we've adjusted kind of the operating model of some of those markets over time to make them more cost efficient and allow the revenue to grow in, where today almost all of our markets are profitable. And the company will be profitable as a whole, actually, this in Q2 of this year, which is exciting. So it's kind of changed trajectory materially into a very positive outcome for us, but a lot of lessons learned through that expansion journey.
You mentioned kind of that you're mainly in the South, and I know you're always looking to branch out. Without revealing kind of any insider secrets, are there any cities that you kind of have on your sites that you want to target and branch out into?
Yeah, we're currently being recruited and expanding into Northern Virginia, which we will probably have announced publicly by the time this comes out. If not, this is the announcement. But Nova today. Yeah, that's right. Nova today. We just shared it with our staff internally a couple hours ago, actually. And that would be the Arlington, Alexandria National Landing Bid, Amazon HQ2 region. We have advertising partners in that market that helped make that possible. And we'll launch there in April of this calendar year. And then we're also looking at some other markets in Florida and Tennessee for expansion that are geo-proximate to a lot of our other cities. We have crossover advertising demand and other reasons that make them highly desirable for us. So you'll see us probably expand to those areas. I would say our expansion is probably going to be mostly geo-proximate to our existing cities, just because of how the audience overlap, the advertising overlap works. It allows us to hit our unit economics a lot quicker by being near other markets. At the same time, we're not trying to necessarily go to like a million new cities with our core existing structure, because we really are in a unique position to flex up the revenue in the markets that we're in. And so we're really doubling down, making sure that the company is a strong, healthy, profitable position and can self-fund all of its future growth without raising any more additional capital. And that's really a core premise of this calendar year, is to be materially thrown off cash by the end of the year so we can kind of choose our own destiny.
You mentioned raising capital and fundraising. You know, a lot of folks, I think, in the newsletter space and just startups across the board, they get to a time and place when they're like, listen, we have the means to grow and like we know where we want to take it, but we just don't have the capital. What was the fundraising process for you? Was it super painful like it is with most other people? And, you know, what were the main takeaways from that?
I have revised our pitch deck probably like 1,000 times. I've won a ton of pitch competitions and we've raised tens of millions of dollars, and we did it the hard way. We raised a lot of the capital in our business from the cities that we operate in and serve, and a lot of it from angel investors. So we didn't come out with some big institutional capital and go, secure tens of millions of dollars out the gate. It was $100,000, $50,000, $250,000 at a time. And so that was an interesting process. We raised in debt structures, convertible notes, safes, equity, fractional ownership of our markets, a whole bunch of crazy things that we cleaned up entirely last year in a larger Series A round that was led by Tegna. And that's kind of put us in a much better position. The company doesn't really carry a debt load like it used to. We reclaimed any parts of the company that we had kind of fractionally sold out to other folks. And so we now wholly own and operate our business, and we're really excited about where that's put us. But the way that we grew, because Ryan Johnson and I really didn't own the company. It was a product innovation when we started. It's opposite of what most entrepreneurial journeys are, where you start and you own 100% of the company as a solopreneur, or two people own 50% of the company. Well, we started with 0% of the company. And so that journey was a little bit different in how you would go about raising money, because you don't want to over dilute yourself too early on, and then not have a play. So we actually had to learn how to earn our equity position in the business while also growing. So it was a quite an interesting journey. I've learned a lot about fundraising. That was the hat I primarily wore for about 8 years. I'm excited to say that I don't really need to fundraise anymore. And that's a totally different burden. And I get to be more passionately involved in in the company in a way that I haven't been able to in a while, because the fundraising is a full-time job. And now I'm back in and really working on a lot of cool innovation and stuff that we're deploying and rolling out this year and next, that I think is gets me more excited to get up and go to work every morning.
That's awesome. Love to hear that. Congrats. Speaking of cities, I'm curious, what's your favorite city in America? And do you guys go to market in that city?
That's a tough question. So I would actually argue that Greenville, South Carolina is my favorite city in the country. And it actually has a lot to do with our business. I moved here in 2012. There was like one apartment complex downtown, and it was a little like Disneyland Main Street, very small but rapidly growing community located between other major metros. So Greenville is right between Atlanta and Charlotte, and the city clearly had some good leadership in place. I came down to run an aerospace manufacturing company here at the time, because I really liked the community and had traveled so many places all across the country and internationally. It seemed like a really good place to put your foot down and create a legacy. And it worked like incredibly well. Greenville is an absolutely booming city, and to be able to be part of that ecosystem, where we talk about pride in place, like people here love what happens. The new restaurant opens, everyone's celebrating it. The new business comes into town. The people are becoming part of the community, the welcoming environment downtown. Everything is brand new and beautiful or historically renewed. And clean, and there's no crime. And it's just like, it's a wildly amazing place to live. There are other cities that are parallel in some nature to ours, in other parts of the country, but there's something unique about Greenville that has made it home for us, and I would never leave here, even with all the other cities that we've gone to experience. So yeah, we operate in my favorite city. It is Greenville. It is home. And I don't think that I would go to a different one, even though we know a ton about them. The only thing I would say is what's cool about being in all these different cities is you see what best practices are city to city, and can kind of understand, and bring also home the stuff that's cool. So when you're in another market and you're like, man, they do a really good job with how they shut down, these sections of Main Street or downtown at night to support pedestrian traffic, or allow drinking on Main Street, or, to get people all out and socially involved. That's really a unique opportunity. Those parks that they built over in, whatever in Austin are really unique opportunity along the river. How do you bring that back into your community here? And being in a greenfield opportunity like Greenville, you can kind of help influence and create some of those opportunities. So it's really interesting when you observe how different cities operate, that there's ways to bring those things back into the fold into your own community. You just got to step outside your box.
It's funny you say all that, because I was going to ask you I was going to take it back, because I'm a very content focused person, and you had mentioned that you were going to stray away from politics, crime and punishment and all that, when usually when someone's planning a newsletter, that's kind of like, ooh, we got to make sure we include politics and crime and punishment, because that's what gets people clicking. So I was going to ask you your philosophy behind why you chose that, because obviously, like, when you're building something up, especially from the ground floor, having something like that is almost like a cheat code to really grow it and get those clicks coming in. But I think you just answered it. Greenville sounds like a place where there's so much going on besides that you don't necessarily even need that to grow, which is very cool to hear.
I think that there's a difference too if you look at the path that legacy media is running down, which is very clickbaity in nature. I mean, you watch the morning TV broadcast re-rack the same thing over and over again. It's a bunch of syndicated national content similar to the newspaper. A homicide, a car accident, a sexual assault, and some other fire or whatever that happened last night. and the weather. And that's just not an enjoyable experience for a consumer. And the politics laid in on a national level and local level is so divisive. But those folks who are pushing that content out are also alienating usually like 50% of the community. So one, or even maybe more than that, some of the community just doesn't want that crap. The other part is Republican or Democrat and doesn't want your opinion. And so you just take it out. And now the total addressable market is the whole market, you know? And I have people who are passionate about the community, which makes a highly engaged consumer. Highly engaged consumer clicks on my content, not just the clickbait headline, but on the actual advertising material within the product. And then that converts and that advertiser stays. And then we have a more sustainable product for the long term in the market, where you see the opposite happening and dollars are being rapidly pulled back from linear TV. The newspaper is just a matter of time before that folds, unfortunately, in more and more cities. You know, everything else and all those other platforms, we kind of rely on like the Olympics and the political season, and the Olympics and the political season to hit their revenue numbers. And that doesn't matter to us at all. We've got a sustainable business that's consistent year round. So pretty different from the legacy models.
That's something I really appreciate about 6 a.m. because, of course, I stay up to date on all the news that's happening, but I do think at some point we did lose our sense of community with people doing remote work, with all the terrible news that's going on around. And it really, when I see all that stuff, it just makes me not want to leave the house. And so with, you know, brands and companies and newsletters like 6 a.m. City, it helps me understand, oh, there is still community out there that I can be a part of. So I think that's awesome. Another takeaway before we move on to the next question that Tommy has, my biggest takeaway from Greenville is you're going to see Tommy in your streets tomorrow because you mentioned it's like Disneyland, and Tommy is a huge Disney fan. So look outside your window. Tommy will be right there.
You guys got churros?
We do. We do.
Good to know. Okay, cool. I was actually literally about to ask you. I was going to assume in my follow-up for any city that you said, but since it's Greenville, this should hopefully be easy for you. Whatever city was your favorite, Greenville. Name like your top like 3 favorite things to do there.
We have a lot of really unique culinary scene opportunities that are integrated into the ecosystem really well, like shipping container, food hall style concepts that are really unique, like a Gather Greenville. Our Unity Park has something called the Commons, which is a really unique culinary experience. We have this one of the most amazing parks that's come out of the ground, all brand new. That's humongous, called Unity Park, as part of our downtown. It's huge. And so we have Falls Park, which is one of the most beautiful parks in a downtown that also has a waterfall in it. So we're like one of the few cities in America that has a waterfall in the, like at the smack dab center of downtown. And a massive bridge. It's called Liberty Bridge that goes over it. It's gorgeous, but it's all connected out to this other park, Unity Park, and then for tens of miles in each direction, where a railway was redeveloped, called the Swamp Rabbit Trail. And so my personal thing is running, and so I'm out there running on that trail all the time, and you get to kind of carve your way right through the community in a really fun, desirable way. So running and biking are really popular here. The park systems are really popular here. And then not far from Greenville, you're in the Appalachian Mountains and some beautiful lakes. And on the other side, we're straight down to Charleston and Hilton Head and on the beach. So it's just it's really about the location and some of that experience. But I love my food. I love my running. And just the clean nature of the community is pretty cool. Lots of family friendly activities here as well.
Cool.
That sounds really nice. Going back to the newsletter side, we have, you know, our audience who might be looking to start their own newsletter, or they have already started it, but they're having difficulty growing it. So what are some strategies that you can share that you've actually applied, you know, tried and tested to grow your own email newsletter and your subscribers?
Should we talk about the ones that don't work? The ones that do?
Yeah, both.
Don't just go buy a big list of emails and shove them into your sending domain. It's not a good idea. I think hopefully everyone understands that now. That doesn't mean that you can't curate emails in different ways and market to people to become a subscriber of your newsletter. But yeah, we've tried all of the things you shouldn't do along the way, especially in the beginning. Manually going in and like finding everyone at the Chamber of Commerce's email address and like going and like adding them in and being like, hey, like check out what I'm doing. Yeah, we've tried all that. There's some level of guerrilla warfare in the beginning when you're building your email list to get enough traction to figure out if you actually have a viable product. In the beginning, I think you do whatever you can to get your first 10, 50, 100,000 subscribers. And then it shifts and there's different levers. A lot of people will lean on referral and things like that early on. But you really kind of, if you're going to go grow, you have to get into some form of paid typically. People are kind of getting to a negative CAC opportunity now where they're able to set up landing pages in a way where you're picking up a subscriber, but also getting paid for a referral at the same time type of concept. So a good example of that, we have Digio implemented on all of our sites. We actually just shared about this the other day. We built a relationship now with Digio and Sparkloop. So someone subscribes to our newsletter, they get referred to another newsletter, they go become a subscriber of 1440 or Morning Brew or whatever, and then we get $1.40 back because they subscribe, they become a subscriber of that newsletter. So we're actually generating revenue when someone subscribes. Way different model than it was when we started, when that was not a thing and that infrastructure didn't exist. So now if you play your cards right, you theoretically could grow your audience for $0. You just have to get creative in the ways you go about doing it. And then plugging into all these newsletter communities and ecosystems that are out there. There are so many people that have created all these different groups or communities that lots of people are willing to share about each other to help boost their audiences. I will say there's one big thing that's different about us. Growing an audience in a local community is a lot different than growing an audience for national play. So I can write a finance newsletter and anyone in the community or anyone in the country can read it. That's great. Here's my new AI or crypto newsletter of today that's spinning up that I want to get subscribers for. I'm just spraying and praying and hoping that people subscribe across the country, right? I have to go pick up a subscriber in Greenville, South Carolina, or, Indianapolis. Like they have to be from there. They don't have to be, but like the one that cares about that city is likely from there or from there and moved away, maybe moving there or maybe part of that ecosystem. And so it's a much more targeted approach. However, I can get my CPA a lot lower than the folks who are advertising at a broad level. So, if you were comparing us to Morning Brew or Axios or 1440, oftentimes they're paying a lot more money because they're going more broad stroke or they're hitting a saturated market penetration level. Whereas I have a very clear line of exactly who we're going for, and we're delivering them content that really resonates. It's like the 10 restaurants you need to go check out this weekend, and you keep getting hit with all this stuff that's about your community. And so it doesn't get lost in the ecosystem of like, hey, there's 500 people writing about national news. You can go, it's a dime a dozen, you just swap to somebody else. Here, like, we're it. And like, there might be a competitive like local newspaper or TV station, but no one's delivering it the way that we are. And even all the little like AI newsletters and other people who have some bandwidth in a market to really put together a local newsletter and convert subscribers and have them stick around like we do is not something that most people can do well. And it's not something you learn overnight, even with all the stuff. I mean, I can literally sit there and tell you how to do every single thing that we do. And in 2 years, maybe you might start to get there. It's not going to happen for you in 24 hours.
I'm curious, how important would you say engaging with your audience is, and what are some strategies to engage with them? I assume you all probably get a lot of emails and responses. So
we could probably create tomorrow's newsletter every day just based off the inbound email and comments and posts and stuff that are DMs that we're getting, because it's a brand safe environment and the product has always been designed for reader engagement. It's been pretty amazing. So the reason engagement matters from the very beginning, before like everyone was talking about deliverability, that's what it mattered for. Like it was like, hey, we want to get in inboxes. We want to create habitual behavior. We want people to open this every day. I want them to open it not 1 day a week, but 2 days, 3 days, 5 days a week, because I want them to click on my advertisers' content. And that was always the mindset. Come to find out, that really was very beneficial for all of the changes to deliverability that's happened over the years as people have gotten more familiar with newsletters. We were already having people daily respond to engagement. We literally designed engagement modules since 2012 in our newsletters that were like trying to get people every single day to answer a question. Picks up first party data. It gets them clicking and engaging in the newsletter. We get mail to response, auto mail to responses so that we're getting actual replies from the newsletters. All of that stuff was awesome, and that's what we're still doing today. Now we've learned some additional techniques to drive engagement. We've created more habitual nature elements like games and things that live within the newsletters. But just the content itself, asking a question, the same way you would post something on LinkedIn and you want people to participate, you got to write with that same mindset that the newsletter is a dialogue with the community. We're sitting around the community table or around the bar and having this discussion. And if you position the content that way, people will respond to you. It might flood your inbox with a ton of stuff, but there's AI now to help you filter all that stuff out. So you just, lean on the tools that you have. And engagement is the number one thing to facilitate any community, a sustainable community of people that participate in the dialogue. It's also the number one way to get people to click on the stuff that you make money off of. And if you do that, you have a sustainable product.
So now that the newsletter's grown, I'm as someone who's familiar with 6 a.m., I am deeply impressed by your ability to monetize it. And I would very much like you to kind of walk through your favorite ways to monetize the newsletter, kind of like maybe some things you've tried that didn't work in the past, and just the ones that have been kind of most successful for you all.
One of the most unique things that we do is not follow everyone's mold. Partly, I think, because we were ahead of the mold that has been created, like having a single sponsor name at the top and they have the sponsor in the secondary story or whatever. We custom design our email headers in our newsletters on a daily basis. And that is one of the most high cost items that we sell with the highest margin. And it's like a badass graphically designed masthead of the email. And so I think that's pretty unique. For us, I really enjoy that. Our graphic design team is amazing, and we are able to kind of leave our impression on that newsletter every day while still incorporating those advertising partners the same way like Google search, changes its Google at the top every day. I mean, that's what we do. We also sell all elements of the newsletter. So the lead story, secondary stories, mini articles, text ads. I think a lot of people don't realize that a text ad performs much better than a mini article in many instances. So just 50 words of text with a link, usually, like a lot of times the engagement, because we build it into the format of our newsletter, it drives a much better conversion than a mini article, which has a headline, image, copy, and a CTA. So we've kind of figured out a lot of like which elements are going to drive the best conversion. And then you deliver that as the recommendation to the advertiser. And then you optimize for lowest cost to produce, highest conversion, best retention. And then that's a flywheel effect again for those advertisers. We also have a really cool affiliate revenue brand that we've built called The Buy. The Buy is our own section within the newsletter that looks paid, but it's our own affiliate brand. And we create hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue based off of the Buy brand through the newsletter, just by using our own affiliate content as ads within the product. But we also sell that product to advertisers independently as well. It's kind of become a secondary brand for us, kind of like CNN Underscored or New York Times Wirecutter. but it allows us to engage with advertisers in a slightly different way when they're more product oriented than brand oriented.
When you first started 6 a.m., 9 years ago now, the platforms and the softwares and whatnot that was accessible then has highly evolved to what's available now. And so, what platforms do you think folks looking in the newsletter space should keep an eye out on? Something that maybe you have integrated, and do you recommend cross posting across platforms?
The second one I'm going to do last. If I remember, you might have to bring it back to me. But the first question, on platforms, when we started on MailChimp. It was the thing to do back 9 years ago. That platform rapidly did not maintain pace with our need as we grew for a wide number of reasons. And many of the other platforms that were around back then really just haven't evolved in an appropriate manner to continue to support growing publishers. And so there's a threshold too on how many newsletters you're operating, the size of your list, the data that you want that puts you in different places. And so at the time, I would somewhere along that path, we went over to Sail Through as our ESP, and we went to Brightspot as our CMS. And we were kind of stepping up to drive the Cadillac, along the way, probably earlier than we could have afforded to, but we did. And it made a big difference. Now, today, there's a lot of new entrants in the space, specifically around the core tech, like the ESP, and like Beehive is doing an absolutely amazing job crushing it. But you also have Ghost and Letterhead and Kit and some others that are in the space. I would say they appeal to different publishers differently, or you have a Substack, which is a whole different animal that I just can't understand if they can't figure themselves out correctly or not. But like that one just kind of like got fits and starts with kind of where it's going. A great platform though, just not for me. I would lean, more heavily towards a Beehive type model that's growing and driving the innovation extremely quickly. We lean heavily into partners that are willing to work with us on dev. So someone who's too far along, like I would never work with Salesforce, right? It's just a behemoth of a thing. It's going to cost me more money to pay to create the integrations and get what I actually want out of it. SAP was a similar thing like that. I just like never, like I'm not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole because it's just more work than it's worth for a nimble startup. I mean, it just doesn't work. So I want somebody who's building still, someone who's in startup mode and growing, and I can go, this is an amazing example. I mean, we went to Digio, and we went to Sparkloop, and we were like, this is the problem that we need to solve, and you all two need to work together to get us here. And they crushed it, and worked with us, and we came up with a development solution that's now allowing us to convert subscribers the way that we want to, and that's working really, really well, and monetize at the same time. Sparkloop even also went and created geo-targeting for us to actually advertise through their platform so we can approach a local angle. Beehive has got a lot of really interesting, unique things too that have got me excited that they're playing with, and that we can work with them to kind of it's like, hey, if you can do this for us, if you can help us with that API integrations that we can push over, that's a really compelling reason for us to move platforms. So there's a lot of great players in the space. There's folks I would say are around maybe a few specific verticals. You have audience development side, product being ESP and CMS oriented, and then on the revenue side. And there's a lot of solopreneurs or micro businesses that all support all of that. But we've been kind of really refining our tech stack over the years, very happy with the partners that we work with. And I think now it's leaning more into the AI integration with the newsletter space and looking at how do we streamline workflows for revenue fulfillment and for drafting content. We have a self-serve advertising platform. When that stuff comes in, I need it all pre-formatted, handed to my revenue fulfillment team so that they just have to really put the polish on what was submitted by an advertiser. It takes a lot of the friction out of the process. We automate the analytics reporting back. So the AI tools supporting newsletters now, I think are really unique in an area you'll see us lean into materially.
Do you think that social media helped you grow your newsletter?
Yeah, I mean, our Instagram presence has been huge. We divested from before Twitter was, or X was a controversial platform. We were off of it. It never was a materially good community platform for cities. We never went on to TikTok or anything else really. I mean, Instagram, Facebook. So like our demographic leans a little older, higher net worth, educated female, and Facebook and Instagram for a long time were the core areas. Facebook is dialed back materially as a valuable platform. Instagram remains interesting, very interesting for us, high engagement. That's also rented land. So we've never like leaned on that for monetization. It's really just distribution. And so we're working more now towards how do you take a newsletter? I believe a newsletter is a jumping off point to deliver in an automated format, a podcast, and social content, all with AI. And so you can really go, and if you can put together a comprehensive conversational newsletter, there's no reason why you can't create audio and video distribution out of your newsletter on a daily basis, nearly automated, and then publish it out to like 64 different locations, you know? And that's something that we're evaluating and then you can even have the AI responses to people who comment or DM back in, and like you can facilitate a conversation. It's all top of funnel and extending reach, but there are ways that becomes valuable going forward, just to own those relationships.
Yeah, I did check out your Instagram, and I follow you, and we're connected on LinkedIn, which is where I read about the Digio and Sparkloop future. So I thought that was really cool. Going back to the readers, are there any notable readers that you found out follow 6 a.m.? Any that you can share?
My team would be embarrassed that I don't know who they are, because we have a party line internally in our Slack channel where people share all the time. Our team has met tons of celebrity talent, and lots of celebrities follow us. If we went, it's kind of funny, you don't think about it, but if you went through and like mined the email list, there's probably a lot of people's emails, personal emails that we have that, wouldn't want their email to be shared somewhere, but no one has access to that information. But it's interesting to know that all these celebrities do follow, and then they write in. It's the person who owns that new restaurant in Nashville that's like, hey, we just opened up, the Jason Aldean, whatever, and like they're commenting back on our content. So I think the team is really trying to get Taylor Swift to engage. I'm not sure they've been successful. We got a few Swifties on the team. But yeah, there are big followings behind the scenes, and a lot of like DMs that they'll get from different folks. And then the team, because we have boots on the ground in many of the cities, get face-to-face meetings with a lot of folks that are materially relevant. And because we're more lifestyle oriented, our team gets invited to these things to get these more one-on-one relationships with higher profile, cooler people than some of the like more boring stuff that's tied to more traditional investigative angles, where it's just, they might be a celebrity, but for the wrong reasons.
Well,
I
let me know,
appreciate
definitely. Go ahead.
I appreciate your answer was, I don't know anyone, but we got a lot of good emails. We got a lot of private data we were holding on to. Can't say who it is though.
Let us know if you get Taylor Swift on board, because we also have a ton of Swifties on our team. I know pretty soon, I know Tommy's going to go into the rapid fire questions, but I'm curious, what's your dream creative project? It could be, newsletter, it could be something else.
I want to replace the Chamber of Commerce in the United States. Personally, I think that
That's very creative.
yeah. So the Chamber of Commerce is probably one of the most inefficient business models in most cities for a wide number of reasons. Some of them do a really good job in integrate economic development and are very progressive. Some of those we work with. like Winston-Salem is absolutely amazing in that regard. But a lot of cities, you have these business leaders talking in a vacuum and not moving the ball forward for their community effectively. And I think there's a different way to support local business advocacy that supports communities more effectively. I think some of what we're doing here, just seeing how much economic impact we can drive in the market with a media product, I think there's a way for the next generation of the chamber to work where it's more of a community oriented, more businesses involved, sustainable platform that moves the needle. And so, yeah, I look to differentiate that after 6 a.m. City.
I'm rooting for you. I definitely think you can make it happen. And so I will definitely be staying tuned to those news. Okay. And then anything that you want to promote on 6 a.m. I know that you're expanding to West Virginia, but anything that our readers should look out for?
The big thing that we're leaning into is the newsletters as a service space. One of the things that we did really well over the years that's a differentiator from a lot of the national newsletters is, and I use Morning Brew. It's an amazing example. They're awesome at what they do, and they have initially for a while had one newsletter. Scaling into newsletter 2 and 3 and 4 is a lot of work. We figured out how to go into 28. And then we've gotten so efficient at it that we went and we have a partnership with Locked On Podcast Network. We launched 30 NBA newsletters in 45 days that publish daily. And we spun that up that quickly and are building the audience for them. We are monetizing the product for them. We are the production arm of that newsletter for Lockdown Podcast NBA. So there's literally one newsletter for every NBA team. That is our newsletters as a service, managed services product. We do that also for hospital systems, travel and tourism organizations, creators that have, maybe the YouTube influencer that's looking to have their own newsletter product. And so leveraging the core skill set that we've established doing our city newsletters, what we really perfected was the process efficiency around doing newsletters. And so taking all of that skill set, the resources, the training, the know-how, and then allowing that to be transferred onto these other publications or brands is really unique and interesting. It's a higher margin opportunity for us as well to work with these folks. So right now we're really looking at some of these bigger brands or people who have large audiences, and how do we fit into the fold with them to say, hey, you got 4 million subscribers, but you don't have a newsletter product. Maybe you have a marketing product, and you're just trying to push that, this is the deal this weekend at Target, but you really need a parenting newsletter for Target, right? We want to go build the parenting newsletter for Target and have them as they are the presenting sponsor of that brand. And it's the, Target parents newsletter, whatever they want to call it, that makes it exciting. That's the creative team, my side's job, not mine to come up with the title, but that is where the opportunity lies. And so many brands are relying on audiences that they don't have control over. And so tomorrow, if enough people or somebody decides to block you on TikTok or Insta or whatever, your relationship with that audience is gone. In the newsletters, it's an owned audience. That's that relationship. It's direct conversion to the stuff that you're trying to get them to engage with or sell. You get to have a conversation differently, and we're excited to play in that space.
Awesome. Okay, well, now we're in the more fun part of the podcast. Tommy, if you can hit Ryan with those rapid fire questions.
Yes, I have to be honest, and I have to go behind the scenes for the listeners. Ryan did provide his answers ahead of time, but I wanted to lie and kind of keep this high energy as if he's being put on the spot.
I'll say when I wrote them down, I looked at it before we started, and I wrote them down all within about 10 seconds. So these are actually I said, hey, I want to do the rapid fire, but you don't want to get stuck on that one in the middle and be like, I don't know the answer to that question.
It is better to at least have answers. we'll bring that energy in from the 10 seconds it took you to write all these down as we start our rapid fire questions.
I'm ready for it. Let's do
You
it.
ready? Okay, cool. So number one, favorite travel spot.
Turks and Caicos. It's where I found out I was pregnant with my first child, or
That's
we
great.
found out we were pregnant with our first child.
Was that like celebratory, or did it immediately change the overall vacation vibes in that way? It's like we got to
It
down a
stopped.
little bit, I
It
guess.
stopped the drinking. We were actually on that vacation because it was the last vacation we were going to do. We were having trouble with fertility for years, and we said, "Hey, we're going to go on a vacation, have a good time." And the day came back, we were going to pay to start the IVF process. And on that vacation, I think there's a big correlation between stress and fertility, based off of a lot of conversations with friends. I think people don't understand that how common infertility challenges are. But when you take the stressors out of life, which is what happened at that time, it was a really, it was awesome. And so we go back to the Turks and Caicos every single year, and are excited to go there again in a few weeks.
Cool. It would be kind of crazy if your tradition turned into every time you go to Turks and Caicos you have another child.
I almost said something along those lines. I almost said something along those lines, but I refrain for now.
Like I keep going back. We have 15 kids. I can't stop. It's my favorite place. Okay, next one. Favorite movie.
My favorite movie is Die Hard. It's a Christmas movie. For me, I watch it every year. I just don't follow like all of the different actors and movies and songs. I couldn't tell you who was in the TV episode I watched last night. Generally, it just doesn't add value to my life the way that other stuff does. And so it just kind of like goes in and out. It's de-stressing for me in a lot of ways. And so I literally couldn't tell you like the actors in most of the movies or even the title of the movie. Even if I watched it yesterday, it just doesn't matter to me enough to like stay in my brain. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but like for my entire life, that's just pop culture is just not that relevant to me personally. I'm more of a politics person, which is counterintuitive to our newsletters, but I pay a lot more attention to like policy and international conflict and just stuff that's happening in our own government and ecosystem. And I consume a lot of that content differently.
So you saw this movie where terrorists take over a skyscraper, and you're like, "That's it. That's my movie."
I've always wanted to be in the CIA or FBI as a like side thing. Like that was always like, man, if I didn't have a family, like I would totally be that guy. Like I would be over there just doing crazy stuff. And although I'm gonna have a job today, I don't know how that's working. But it's an interesting, a different way that I would have gone maybe if I was a little more introverted than I am.
Okay. Cool. So favorite book?
I got in trouble for this statement, but I'm gonna say it again. When I started the company, I was like, I don't read books, and a bunch of journalists locally were like, this guy doesn't even read books, and he's starting a media company. I'm like, I just don't read books. I just don't have the bandwidth or capacity for it. But I do listen to audio, and most of what I do listen to is educational, like self-help, I guess you would describe the category, like entrepreneurial books. And again, I don't necessarily pay attention to or recall which author wrote which book. I care more about like the values and themes and business case studies and why something did or didn't work. I read them on 1.5x speed and try to rock through and capture the nuggets I like. And if that's boring, I jump a chapter or three forward. And but yeah, I'm more audiobooks and podcasts are where it's at.
You don't have to say the name of the book because it sounds like you wouldn't remember anyway, based on what you just said. But what's like a lesson that, from like one singular lesson that you learned from one of them that stuck with you? Doesn't have to be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, fail fast, fail forward. I mean, like, I've learned the hard way that sitting on something for too long is not a good idea. And I think getting comfortable with, creating something and then squashing it quickly is a hard thing for a lot of people. You get passionate about the thing that you're building, and it might be ugly and it might need to go away. And if you can't get comfortable with that, whether that's a person or a product, you need to make those decisions quickly. And the faster you can make those decisions, the quicker you can move forward. So it took a few books, I think, to get me comfortable with some of that earlier on. And now we operate in a much quicker learning phase, and it's okay. Like if you don't get it right, it's fine as long as you learn something and took that forward with you.
Yeah. Well, that sounds wonderful. I hope one day we figure out what book that's from. So the next one, favorite song or songs?
I am an EDM genre person, high tempo, hip hop. Like if it's something I can listen to when I'm running or working out, then that's my cup of tea. Otherwise, I really don't care to listen to music. I don't pop like the modern pop culture stuff. I don't listen to, but I guess EDM is probably pretty modern in certain realms. But yeah, I also don't know any of the words to the songs. Like I know like 5 words from the chorus of like every song, and my wife hates it because like I just will say the same 5 words over and over again in the house.
That's part.
But yeah, I don't resonate with any particular song.
Do you have any favorite DJs on the EDM side?
Nope. I don't. I really don't. I couldn't tell you. You know, I'm like at the end of the year, Spotify really helps me with Wrapped to like know like what I actually like because I literally couldn't tell you. And the problem now is it's getting confused with the songs that my 3-year-old likes.
Oh yeah.
So it's like you really like Baby Shark. You listened to it 600 times last year or 600 times last month. And so, yeah, it's becoming a little bit interesting in that regard. But I don't know, top songs of, and then I get my wife's Chainsmokers, Sam Hunt type stuff. Tiesto is up there a good bit. But yeah, I mean, it's evolving. And then all the
I
new
just
ones,
saw,
I just don't know.
yeah, I just saw Tiesto last October for Halloween, and he just crushes it. And then I think there's a big event that he's headlining. I can't remember the name, but I do want to let you know they do have an EDM version of Baby Shark. So that's something you can
Yes.
listen to with your
That
son.
guy is awesome. There's like a DJ that does all the kids songs that way.
Hmm.
It's like it's pretty popular in certain like parenting circles, but it's like a DJ for all of the kids music, and like he like does these like huge parties. I don't know what his name is, but he keeps showing up in my Insta reels. Whatever he's doing is working, or I clicked on it too many times, but
You found the niche. Final rapid fire question: your favorite sweet treat or guilty pleasure food?
Snickers and hot tamales have been for like my entire life.
Okay.
When I'm trying to be healthy and I'm like telling my wife I did such a good job and I ate my salad, and then I go to the grocery store on Saturday morning with my son and I pick up a Snickers bar and I eat it in the car on the way home because I don't want I'd rather wrap it out in the trash can. Hot tamales is my movie candy. Like if I am sitting at home watching a movie, I always go there. Chocolate milkshake. I mean, I'm a chocolate and sweet heat are probably the realms that fit my palate.
Have you been keeping up with the news on America banning red, is it red 40? The red food dye? That
Yeah,
might affect your hot tamales.
I know. Well, I think I'm sure there's easy enough alternates to those types of things. The challenge is that the cost structure is different,
Yeah, of
than
course.
some of
Yeah.
those. So, it'd be interesting to see how politics plays into effect with some of those daily consumer behaviors and what we're eating off the shelves over the coming years.
I don't think we're
Tommy,
ready to find out the real color of hot tamales. We need
They're
those
cl-
bright red,
they're
whatever they
clear
really are.
inside.
Okay.
If you actually suck off the red part, the inside is
mhm.
just a clear gelatin thing.
Okay, then fair enough.
Next time we chat with Ryan, in the background, we're gonna see stacks of hot tamales that Ryan has hoarded.
There might be.
There'll be like a blanket covering them so your wife can't find them.
Awesome. Okay, well, that does wrap up our podcast for today. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. As you know, we are hosting the Creator Conference in downtown San Francisco, May 15th, Thursday. We're excited to have you join us. We're really, really excited to see your growth in 2025. Like you mentioned, tons of new things you're doing, Digio, Sparkloop, West Virginia expansion, etc. So thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it. We will keep a good eye out for 6 a.m.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Awesome. Thank you.